All right, hello everybody, welcome to the panel. I'm joined here by Ricardo and Jason. Today we're going to talk about cybersecurity and how the digital economy we feel is being built on cyber, maybe more than anything else out there. What I would like to do first is, so I'll introduce myself. My name is Scott Carlson and I am a director on the innovation team at Kudelski Security. Formerly I ran security architecture at PayPal. Ricardo, do you want to take it away and introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Riccardo Riccobene. I'm working for Deutsche Bank. My role is Head of Information Security Third-Party Governance and Security Advisory for major strategic programs.
Great. And Jason?
Thank you. My name is Jason Lau. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer at a fintech company. Used to be the Asia Pacific advisor for cybersecurity for Microsoft as well. Also an adjunct professor for cybersecurity and data privacy in one of the universities in the region. Thanks for having us, Scott.
That's great. Thanks very much for joining me. So today we're taking part of Lorca Live. Unfortunately, we can't do it live like we would have. So we're doing it recorded from across the globe. Ricardo, you're coming to us from Italy, and Jason is in Hong Kong today, and I am in the US. So we really have the whole globe covered here. And so the topic today is the digital economy. And when you sort of step back, and the audience for Lorca is both startups as well as enterprise. And so when you look at how the world has changed in the last 20 years, we have seen internet and stock trading starting, we have seen e-commerce, we have seen Amazon take off. And now with COVID, with all being locked down, we're ordering everything online, we're paying everything digitally, our life has turned digital. One of the things that I have seen as a practitioner, I have seen what a lot of corporations have done to bolt on security at the beginning. Business, 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 business. Oh yeah, let's put some security on it. We'll give it an exception if we need it. To today, security, it better come first. Like there is almost no negotiation. So Jason, as you've gone from Microsoft now to a fintech company, how has your sort of perception of where security is in the life cycle come in, and how does it affect sort of what's going on in the digital world today?
Sure. So absolutely, your comments are correct. Digital transformation is really driving everything. It doesn't matter what industry you are in, whether it's large corporates shifting to the cloud or whether it's a small fintech trying to make sure that you can scale globally. Digital transformation is here and it's here to stay. COVID has just accelerated that. I think what I've been seeing in my regions especially is the flow-on effect from regulation. So whether it's GDPR in Europe or whether it's the California Consumer Privacy Act in the US or whether it's China's cybersecurity law in Asia, all of these new regulations are really pushing businesses to make sure that they really start focusing into security and also data privacy. And part of that is actually security and privacy by design, by default. And this is where companies need to really build it in, as you mentioned, not just bolt it on at the end. And with all of these new compliance certifications, whether it's ISO 27701 or whether it's the NIST privacy framework in the US, companies now need to really look at these as the kind of benchmark where they need to be to build trust with their customers.
Yeah.
So from a cybersecurity perspective, as you mentioned, secure design, the ultimate holy grail really is what we now call the zero trust model. In cybersecurity, where you could pretty much, you never trust any person, you verify, you always check, you give least privilege and deny access by default. But again, this is the holy grail. It's not always easy for a company to reach to the stars like this, but at least there's that trend that I'm seeing for sure.
Yeah, and so Ricardo, you're European based, and you've been doing cyber for quite a while in Europe. Have you seen the exact same trend over there?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with what Jason says. At the beginning, it was more regulatory driven. So in Europe, we had our GDPR that was injecting, let's say, the security revolution, if you want, or inserting the security into the business. As my roots are more from business side of view. So when I joined security in 5 years ago now, we were really it was a kind of enemy for us. So was considered a blocker at the very beginning, yeah. While now the work is really to, what's nice is that the evolution now is that we have seen as a partner now and a key component. So thanks to the regulation, which was the start, I think now we are slightly evolving the concept to become a business enabler, and maybe later on we will discuss indeed what does it mean. But definitely the roots of all, or where it all began, it was with GDPR and the regulation.
Yeah. So one of the feelings that I have is, you know, this world of compensating controls and exceptions. There was always some human in the process that could save you if something went wrong. There's no humans in all digital. Like what replaces the human now that we're doing digital payments, digital currencies, digital ordering, digital everything? What replaces the human here? Either of you have thoughts there?
Well, again, I guess it goes back to what I mentioned before, the whole zero trust model, where we need, if we are from the technical infrastructure side of things, we do need to make sure that if we don't rely too heavily on humans, it's going to be systems that are trusting systems, processes, and code that's going to be trusting code. You look at all this new stuff that's happening at the moment with decentralized finance. It's all smart contract and talking to other smart contracts. So what we need to do is, again, code or whatever we're talking about needs to be security focused. So humans will still always play a key function in this, because at the end of the day, it's the humans that will be setting the controls. It's the humans that are going to be configuring the system. So a lot of the times we see data breaches is often because of misconfiguration, for example. Security first, as you'd mentioned. I think an organization is always going to be as strong as the weakest link. So humans will always inevitably be the weakest link. So ongoing training, phishing attempts, all of these programs that a company needs to drive is going to have to become much more of a business strategic task, rather than just a task that's left to the IT department, to go and do training, etc. It's going to be a board level responsibility.
So Ricardo, how have you seen the role of the human affect, from the business blocker to enabler?
Well, as elaborating more on what Jason said, which I totally agree, at the end, the humans are still there. And that's why, for instance, we created this department of security advisory, where we interact with the business at the very beginning, making clear which are our key security controls and key security requirements when designing the product, even at the so introducing security as a partner from the very beginning, it enables us exactly to prevent this kind of topics, because obviously afterwards we rely on technology, but we can, I like also maybe to know the opinion of Jason on it. The new threats are exactly how we design and the governance we put on this technology. Because the moment we build something wrong with artificial intelligence, everything fantastic, but I need to protect the bias, I need to make it right, and I need to make it right from the very beginning. In my opinion, we have no chance later on to adjust it once this is in the system, because with the speed of business, if there is a flaw in the code or there is something we have not done properly in the automated control, it will hit us 10 times more than a simple human error.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the world I play in is the world of blockchain, and if you get security wrong at the very beginning, and the information goes in bad, what's this permanent ledger or chain good for? If your security and information and math and data wasn't good for the beginning, I could see that there's a huge risk in a digital sort of economy with money or information or identity. If you get it wrong, are the ramifications worse? Do they happen quicker? I mean, could be a little scary, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to follow on from the comments made just before, I totally agree with that, because we always say in our space of security and governance, we always say it's always a people, process, and technology thing that it's almost like a cliche. Everyone says that, but here's the problem. The problem with COVID is that it's driven everybody to accelerate to the cloud or accelerate digital transformation. And it's no longer people, process, and technology. Technology has come first. So it's now technology driven. And then all of the people and process and stuff is kind of, let's worry about it when the time comes. So just like you said, the technology is there already for blockchain. But if we push this too fast and we forget about all three of them have an equal amount of importance in your design or anything that we do, then we're going to be in big trouble. So as Ricardo said, you have to have the right people involved at the project design, at the project conception. Otherwise, you don't know what your risks are. You don't know how to manage the risks. And if you don't know how to manage the risks, you don't know what type of controls you're going to put in place. So it's really a chicken and egg type of challenge that we're all facing at the moment.
Do you think it's a different set of skills now that it's all digital than when it was business focused?
Yeah, let's say we need definitely new skills, but new skills and also new behaviors. So we need a new culture because unfortunately, at least, banks are slightly more traditional than the rest of business. Obviously, Jason is working in a fintech, so he has no legacy, if you want, which is we have 150-year tradition of processing. And then here the need of shift, the mentality and the skills is definitely easy to be seen. Yeah. The point is that for the new skills in Europe, we are just starting now in the universities to prepare the people, the next generation. Yeah. My generation, we needed to learn while doing when we were exploring the space.
Yeah.
In the early 2000s when first digital started in trading floor and then going forward. So that's the topic. Now we really need the new wave of people which has started with this concept, digital security, and they know and they are more skilled, while we keep, let's say, the link between the mindset of business, which they're not yet that far. Yeah, they're more thinking digital, just it's the opportunity to do more revenues, but sometimes they undermine the real risk that is behind that, which is our duty to do in our role.
And Jason, have you seen a shift in some of the materials in the university system, adding security into, maybe you only teach security classes, so you're a bit biased, but.
Yeah, so our course that I teach at is specifically focused around cybersecurity and data privacy in the fintech space. But the traditional computer science departments still focus on, a lot of the times coding, right? So back in my day, we learned things like assembly language and, really at the lower type of level, right? But now it's really, you learn stuff that's needed for industry. Right. Now, there's good and bad about that. So in regards to your original question about the skill sets that are needed, they don't really teach secure coding. They teach you functional coding. Does it work? If then and then else, it works, it's functional. And then you go and work in industry for a little while, and then you probably learn about efficient coding. You learn to use libraries and third-party libraries and things like that, right? But still, you don't learn that secure coding. So this is a big challenge. And with fintechs or any type of development space, a lot of the times nowadays, by using these third-party libraries or code, this is where your third-party supply chain risks are. Yeah. Have you actually tested the code? Have you actually done your static code assessments, et cetera, et cetera? But this is, again, another challenge because everybody wants to use the trendiest code out there, use coding languages like Elixir or whatever. And, there could be a lot of static code assessment tools that just simply don't support it yet. So again, without having that design consideration at the very beginning, what language should we actually be coding this project in, and not even thinking about security, it can impact you later on because the whole project could have been coded in a language that you can't even do static code assessment on, the most basic, for example.
And something you just said in the middle of there, which Ricardo, you and I have talked about in the past, is you can't just build this whole stack yourself anymore. You right. Reach out to an API that's calls an API, and especially in an economic wide thing, I'm going to get the identity over there and the payment over there, and 2 or 3 banks over there, and let me join it to a credit system over here, and all of a sudden there's all these people that need to integrate with these secure methodologies. Is that more scary than owning the whole stack yourself?
Well, scary. I'm Italian. Our definition of of fear is maybe, but definitely it's a topic because I remember when we started our digital journey, for instance, in mid of the 10s, so in 2014, 2013, and it was a kind of digital Wild West. So any application developer wanted to use his own stack of services and whatever. I joined security after a fight with security for using GitHub. Yeah, that's exactly where I started, because we had so hard battle that I decided, okay, I come to you and now I want to understand why you don't understand. And then I understood myself what was the reason why it was not good to do at the time a free use of anything you find in the market. So more than scary, my opinion is that we really need to put a lot of focus in the governance of it. Avoiding the Wild West, but not blocking our developer in order to do the right thing, but nevertheless putting the right governance and understanding that there is no unlimited use or whatever, because the more the complexity, the more difficult it will be then to remediate and to design the right security on it. And we will pay the price later on. So we need to balance between the creativity of our developer guys and what's needed in order to keep it secure for the years to come.
Yeah. So I know, in the different parts of the globe you both come from, like Europe has open banking acts and the UK has open APIs. You can move your data from here to there, and it has to retain your information as you move it around. I think some countries in Asia have similar portability things, but still retaining the privacy. So let's talk about privacy for a minute. As we've gone more digital, privacy, I think, is probably more important, because all of a sudden this information is shared. How do we make sure that it's private by design? Is that part of security by design? Maybe Jason, I know you're part of IAPP, so what do you think there?
Sure. So part of when a new project starts, if they're following, for example, the latest ISO 27701 certification or the best practices, they should be doing a privacy impact assessment as early as possible. So in the security field, we're very used to doing security risk assessments, etc. So it's the same, but different, but it's very specifically doing a risk assessment on privacy. So is this project over collecting data? Is it customer facing on the website? Do we have the right cookie consents in place, or the right privacy notices in place? Do we have the right type of consent buttons that we've in order to collect? Are we very clear in our transparency on how we're actually processing the data? So all of these things should be done in a privacy impact assessment, and then throughout the life cycle, there should be people that are also involved with the project, where you can actually check to make sure that you need to verify that these controls are actually put in place. So it's very difficult, as privacy is still very new to many people. Privacy and security are a little bit different, but a lot of the regional regulations are helping in some ways to provide requirements. And it's not just the commissioner's office or wherever. It's if you're looking at the banking field, for example, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority or whichever local Securities and Futures Commission, they have their standards as well in regards to security and privacy for companies that have to be regulated under their umbrella.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally on the same page also, because in Europe anyhow, with GDPR for us is no more an option. So we have a data privacy officer since the beginning, since now 5 years, probably even slightly more. And there is a strong connection, even if, for instance, at least in Europe, most of the data privacy officers are coming from legal and not from security. So for that, we are partners. We are really trying to work together, but we are two distinct functions. Nevertheless, as you said, and here is no more an option, we must have privacy by design since the very beginning. Now, the way we are working on it is obviously like secure by design. So we are now much advanced compared to 2-3 years ago, but nevertheless, it's still a journey. So because the limit where to put exactly the privacy protection and keeping the agility is not yet, to me, yet achieved, or is still a case-by-case definition. We don't have yet, at least maybe Jason, I don't know if you have, but I don't see now a silver bullet that one size fits all. We have the fantastic solution, yeah, and then we are privacy by design.
Well, the thing is, it's changing. So 1 minute you may have designed something, and then 2 minutes later, Privacy Shield in the United States is thrown out the door, and then we now need to come up with a new what's considered adequate in regards to cross-border data transfers, for example. So there's no silver bullet. It's going to continuously evolve, and I think it's definitely a marriage between the security teams and the data privacy and the lawyers. Different people were kind of talking their own language, but because of these regulations, there's just no choice, like you said, absolutely no choice. And it's GDPR has been trickling down to Asia Pacific as well. So there are many Asia Pacific local data privacy regulations that are borrowing certain aspects of the GDPR for sure.
Yeah, so, one thing that we had, a good benefit of is in the non-digital past, you would have paper that you would have to steal. And if you stole it, you only had what was on that piece of paper. But now in the digital world, you can get the whole data set all at once. You can take somebody's digital money. You could borrow somebody's digital identity. A lot of these things we've talked about for a couple of minutes are regulation-based, policy-based, practice-based, standards-based. Does that actually deliver security? Like, what is secure? How do you take that? How do you design a secure system with that stuff? Do you guys have some advice? A lot of startups are going to be listening to this, a lot of enterprises. What kind of advice do you have?
So let's assume you're still using the regulation or standards to guide you. There will be things in those standards that say you need certain security controls, whether it's the Payment Services Directive in Europe telling you that you need strong authentication, or the GDPR you need by design, etc. Now, in order to actually achieve this, you need to kind of change the mindset as well. So like you said, stealing somebody's identity is now the ultimate holy grail for a hacker. Once you've got that, then you can kind of do everything. So because we're going digital, and today's talk really is about digital transformation, we need to be moving away from kind of thinking that it's a physical on-premise network of everybody that goes to the office, which is not the case anymore, where, as you can see, we're all at home. So we need to be thinking about digital identities as a really identity-driven security model. So the security that a company needs to put in place now really needs to follow the particular user. So if that's the case, it's almost as if it's forcing a company to now think about, okay, everybody's working from home. We need now device management. We need application management on their laptops. We need to think about multi-factor authentication. We need to think about all of these things that we may not necessarily have been thinking about as a priority before, but because of the way that now we're working, it now becomes something that is much more common. So the university that I work at previously didn't have multi-factor authentication, but because of the work from home and COVID, they've introduced it. So it's the environment that we're living in now that's also pushing this. So it's not necessarily just regulation. So it's the whole COVID situation is really changing the mindset of many people and also organizations as well.
On this, for one time, probably the banking system on this was kind of lucky in the situation because we were forced to think about that by the regulation. So definitely we started from the regulation to have the multi-factor authentication, all these topics. When all COVID started, we were ready under this point of view. What is now for us the new thinking is that regulation is per se is not sufficient. So now we are following what we call the threat-driven security. Yep. So because also we need to weight not only the regulation but the underlying investments that we need to do. So we like to blend the regulatory requirement with the threats that we are noticing on the market. What's happening, what is the real, as said, Jason told us some of the drivers of these threats, which is at the end of the story the identity of the person, of the employee that we need to protect, and others, and focusing on that, then investing exactly on the layers that are the most attacked at the moment. Even if, as Jason also correctly said before, it's a constant evolution. So whatever solution we find today could be not the best tomorrow morning. And this is where also we have the challenge as security officers to make sure that we have also the business understanding this. Because while interacting with the privacy guys is easier for us, we have the same routes, convincing the business that whatever security design we apply today and they're investing and they're giving us their piece of budget to know that to implement it we need to constantly evolve. So it's needed, is now a kind of run the bank investment. Is not something that they could do one off and for the next 10 years is all okay. So this is where now we're really focusing our attention. So now not only limiting for the regulation, because the regulation per se will become very soon not applicable because of budget issues. We need to focus where the major threats are and investing to protect what is right to protect at the time.
Yeah, so Ricardo, you know, you've been through some digital transformations at a very, very large company, you know, one of the biggest. You know, your perspective on how to turn a ship a little bit. How do you get people to start thinking about, you know, this is digital now. We need a little bit, put security front. I mean, do you have any learnings from your past, like that were aha moments? I need to start here that come to mind.
But as I said, what the moment was exactly when I joined security. So when we were starting our digital journey and I was leading the DevOps team, we were creating DevOps at the time. And then basically our perceived major blocker was exactly security, where we wanted to do whatever free, no limit, no restriction. A fantastic digital world means no rules, finally free. We hit very hard against the security, and then yes, I decided, I really need to understand. So if it's really important, and then when I realized that, so for me it was really a moment where, you know, coming from the business and then shifting to security, when I understood that security is a key component of the business, is not a blocker. Definitely now in the digital world, for me, the core of the products is security. What I can sell to the customer is my digital product is secure. I think is one of the best thing I can do. So that for me was the aha moment, and this is what we're trying to do with the team. We're part of the evangelist of this way of thinking. Yeah. Because you know, we're spending a lot of time with the business lines, and I have to say, the moment you start to speak their language, so speaking the language of business, but making them aware that security is a plus for them, that moment is you know, priceless to me. That's I have aha moments every week, but that my moment was 5 years ago. That moment.
Yeah, you know, we are very big supporters of, you know, moving digital, you know, based on where we work and our past, and you know, I think our personal lives, you know, doing this live, you know, meeting right here now. What do you say to the people who don't want to go all digital? I mean, digital identity, digital money, digital cards, tap and pay. Like, I mean, my last trip to London, I don't think I used cash once. I Apple paid my way through London. 100% digital, everything. I trust it. I think you guys trust it. What do we say to people who aren't there yet? Yeah. What do we say?
Well, I think it's really kind of here to stay. If you go back in time, before the days of the internet, you know, people could be saying, "I don't have email. I don't need email." But you know, sooner or later, it's going to happen. I'm sure there's going to be many places that still take cash in the future, but one of the articles that I wrote for Forbes was specifically about how physical dirty money is giving rise to digital money. Do keep in mind that it's not necessarily that they don't want to go digital. They didn't have an opportunity to go digital before. So you look at what we call the unbanked nations. I think the World Bank in 2017 or 2018 said there's something like 1.7 billion people or adults that just don't have access to the traditional banking system. But now, because of 4G, because of 5G, you know, there's countries that are just completely skipping the whole physical broadband internet days because of, you know, the third world nations, and they don't have the infrastructure. They're just going straight to 4G, 5G, and the ability to have these fintech applications on their phone and to be able to participate and be part of, you know, not just digital transformation, but digital banking. So I think there's going to be a growing adoption, and absolutely, like what you said, whether it's in the UK or you go to China, you can walk around with no money in your wallet and just be paying everything with Alipay, WeChat Pay, or whatever. So it's it's just going to take a bit of time, and we're moving from the physical cash to the digital cash, and then obviously the next trend with that would be cryptocurrencies, and it's going to take some time, but I think it'll get there sooner or later.
Yeah, Ricardo. So these systems all have a bank behind them today. Oh, digital money is still got a bank behind it for the most part until we get to cryptocurrencies. How does that add to this?
Well, I was thinking now what Jason was saying, and obviously I here represent Europe, and obviously we are more the old style. But now there are billions of people, like Jason correctly said, that they're starting their banking experience or payment the experience starting with digital already. So you see, for instance, in China, their digital transformation was super quick with Alipay or so. In Europe, but obviously in Europe here, we in Italy, we invented the bank 600 years ago, and with Monte Paschi, and we still love the money, and we like to see it. There are a number of tax reasons or so on. So let's say here the mentality is still growing. So I see there is more resistance because of tradition. Definitely, anyhow, as you correctly said, like when you go to UK and then you can easily really not use cash. Continental Europe is still different. Is not granted that you will survive without cash. But nevertheless, so we are a little bit slower to the evolution. Also because now in Europe we have also a movement which is no 5G or under technology. Is not the digital payments or the digital economy, is the technology per se sometimes that we get resistance with. And the build infrastructure here in Europe is more complex because each and every country has its own small regulations. So this kind of thing probably makes us a little bit slower in this adoption compared to others. Nevertheless, good sign is that when my last holidays, when I rented the house, the owner, she was an 80-year-old woman and she was using her tablet super professionally, and we did everything. So it's coming even in the grown-up generation, but probably we are slightly slower compared to East and compared to Africa, for example.
So we're getting close to the end of our time. Maybe a couple more quick topics to close it out. Ricardo, you just said every country has its own set of rules. What is there? 180 some countries in the world. How do we do business with each other if everybody's got a different set of rules?
Well, that's why, for instance, this is one of the reasons why I embraced immediately the blockchain topic. Yeah, because to me, that's the answer. So we need to have something different, something new, which is exactly a trustless network. So we are going beyond those more regulation rules, because when we're able to design an efficient way to move values, whatever the value is underlying, with a trusted system between you and me, and we don't need anything in between, that's the way we can cross any boundaries. This is, for me, for instance, the digital identity was the breaking topic for me, making sure if it meets me everywhere in the world that I don't need any paper with me. That's my dream, yeah. And this is where I think this will arrive, will land. It's a journey. It takes time, but definitely I think that these new technologies, emerging technologies, are definitely the answer. At a certain point in time, there will be just a switch. That's my perception.
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah. So absolutely, to add on to that. So with blockchain and cryptocurrencies, like you said, whether it's transferring value or transferring logic to each other, so long as in a trusted method, this is the future, whether it's decentralized finance or decentralized anything. We're seeing companies in the supply chain, from legal companies through to insurance companies using this. And it boils down to exactly what Ricardo said, which is your identity, right? So the whole trend of a self-sovereign identification and having your own identity, and you can share bits and pieces of your identity to the provider, knowing that, well, they know that it's actually legitimate, but you don't have to share everything. So these are the things that are fantastic from a feature and functionality perspective, but also very, very, very scary because if somebody had a hold of your digital identity again, then they've got everything about you, right? So again, it's going to take some time, but like Ricardo said, it's already here. It's blockchain, but in what way, shape, or form is this going to disrupt the industry? Is it going to replace certain industries? Is it going to complement? It's still here to we all said that the internet was going to get rid of the post office, but the post office is still here. So it's going to take some time to kind of really figure out the implications for sure.
Yeah, when I think about a couple of things that are almost way back to the very beginning about data, right? We have all been taught data in use, data in motion, data at rest. When this digital economy is going around the world, we just have more of it. We have to think about that design up front. Where does it come from? How do I keep what I need? And now how do I let everybody else get access to it and then use it safely? Because we know the bad guys are really good at this. We know they can win in 1 second. And so I actually don't think we have any other choice but to put security at the beginning, because we know we can lose so quick, and we can lose badly really quick. So maybe to close, I know a lot of the Lorca cohorts here are based on cybersecurity that we advise. A lot of the companies are trying to build this sort of connected everything. So as the UK, as Europe, and the world goes connected everything, you guys want to add a couple of final thoughts on, like, what does that mean to you, connected everything, and why security is so important to that? Jason?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, if everything is connected, then I think at the end of the day, as we started the conversation, I think we had mentioned that security needs to be thought of everywhere, at the beginning, in the middle, at the end. But how do we do this? The only way that we can do this is really through awareness training. So through training and through more security sessions, or whether it's within a company, they do awareness training. At home, there's a lot of different bodies in the UK, to Europe, to even Asia, where the government bodies are actually pushing more free videos on training, etc. So if you can't self-educate, or if you don't self-educate, then you're not going to be making the broader community safe. So if I want to be safe, we need to be safe. So it's really a collective effort that everybody needs to be working towards that common goal. Otherwise, like you said, IoT, you've got so many millions of devices, billions of devices, everybody's at risk. So for me, the whole human element of cybersecurity is something that has been a kind of afterthought, but now really has to become front and center for all companies, especially with the whole awareness training.
Yeah.
I'm 100% aligned with Jason, because people-centric security is really the key component to that, and the education of the people. On top of that, also having a clear understanding of the complexity of the governance that we need to put in place, and thinking about the risks behind. Because when you say everything's connected, means that everything can be under attack. So having a plan B, how we can mitigate in case, what could happen. So I'm more risk driven, so I need to think about what could happen. And the second topic is really then finding out the way how to facilitate this education of the people, which will start really early in the school, really teaching the kids prior to giving them any device. Even now, anybody has a mobile device when they are 8. Yeah. Right. Teaching them how to keep it secure. That's the number one duty I think we have. Creating what we call, our team, we call ourselves human APIs. We try to be the interface, then conveying exactly all these security topics, not only to convincing the colleagues that what we do is not, we don't do it for the company, you do it for yourself. If you learn to protect yourself digitally, you're safe in your life. At work, fantastic, but not only. And that's probably where the right way to sell it is not that you need to protect, like now for the COVID, is not that you need to protect yourself, you need to protect all of us.
Yeah.
you do it right, you're not protecting yourself, you're protecting all. And this is probably where we need to invest for the future.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good closing thought there. You know, as we're doing digital economy, we have this security up front where we think about the data that's there and why it's being used and the threats for the particular use case. But then we can't forget about the human API as well, because that sort of ties it all together. A lot of the security conferences this year talked about the human element. And so when we combine this fully digital with how people use it, I think that's a pretty good story to tell. So thank you both for joining me from across the globe from me.
Thank you.
I enjoyed this very much.
Thank you, Carsten. Thank you, Jason. It was really great.
Very nice speaking to you. Thanks very much, Scott.
Take care.
Ciao. Bye.
Take care. Bye.